Well, good evening, everyone. It's a long time since I spoke at a microphone. Honest, the rumor you heard when you first came in here that I'm running for mayor is not true. So no speeches. Having said that, first of all, as chairman of the Parkside Centre, and many of you are members of the Parkside Centre, as you know, we have 1,000 members. And we have about 300 programs, and we have at least 72,000 people who actually come to our doors last year. That's a lot of people. And the seniors in this city, they count. And we are now the biggest group in this community, and I think we play a big role in deciding who's going to be elected. Having said that, we have some excellent candidates running. They've all been working very, very hard. And having been a candidate many times myself, I have to tell you that it's hard work and it takes a lot of thought. And so I want to congratulate them on behalf of the citizens and say thank you very much for doing it. And now I'm going to turn it over to Drew Cozell and John Lindsay, and they're going to run this affair.
Thank you very much, Jim. It's marvelous to have a person of your stature here to welcome us. I am the chair of the local chapter of CARP, as most of you know, and CARP is not just, well, some of us are just seniors with training wheels, or young people with training wheels, waiting to be seniors in the offing, right? And so, despite the no hair, my hair is gray. But guess what? We all have a role to play, no matter what our age. CARP is age indiscriminate, but we do advocate for a number of changes and a number of worthy activities for Canadians. And you have a brochure that's in front of you talking about some of our benefits as well of membership. We also have Zoomer magazine. Some of you watch Zoomer TV or Joy TV or Vision TV. All of those belong to the same CARP community. They're out there for you. We do things here in Sudbury. We don't just talk about death and dying, folks. We want to talk about sex and the senior. We talked about medical marijuana or medical cannabis, whatever you want to call it. We have had amazing talks here and great turnouts. Today's a fantastic turnout. Thank you for coming and joining us today. John, ready to roll?
Yeah, we have a great turnout. Wow, this is almost the same number we had come out for our AGM back in May.
Actually, we had 181 of that.
And of those, 100 people answered a questionnaire. And the questions were really, basically, what are you concerned about? And the results of that survey we have tonight, and we're going to go over them just a bit here, just to give you an idea, just to refresh you. All these questions and the survey results have been provided to the candidates, and we expect that in their first 3 minutes, they're going to have a chance to reply to them. Our first response was that 88% responded that they wanted municipal taxes kept to the rate of inflation, or less, or around 1.5%, rather than the over 3% yearly predicted and experienced recently. And the question?
The question was, how can taxes be kept close to the rate of inflation with projected added costs for new developments, and how would this affect other community needs?
Now, 84% felt that present streets and roads should be repaired and maintained before any new construction takes place.
Wow. And of course, do you agree? How about completion of Bailey Drive and other road construction? I want Bailey Drive to be finished, definitely. I drive it every day.
This office is in Bailey Drive, by the way. Where are we here? Oh yes, with regards to a casino, 35% wanted to see a new facility, while 27% favored expansion of the Chelmsford slots location, and 39% said they didn't want any expansion gambling in the city whatsoever.
And the question was, what's your position on gambling when the health unit says that seniors are particularly at risk for gambling addiction, and other addictions too?
I'll have to talk to you about that later. 94% said there should be a limit on development in the Lake Ramsey watershed to protect Lake Ramsey from growing salt contamination.
Right. As there are no mitigation methods to remove salt, should large-scale development be allowed to continue in the watershed, such as the KED and casino with large parking lots requiring salt to be kept clear?
No.
Now, with respect to changing the city structure through de-amalgamation, 59% felt it should take place, while 41% said no.
And question 5 is, how could, what could be done to provide more autonomy to our former municipalities? So not necessarily de-amalgamation, but more autonomy, and we see that in many places. They're gaining character, aren't they? Or regaining character.
Well, we have, I don't know how many municipalities we had in the regional government, but they're all individual and they're all very proud of their community.
And heritage.
And they want to see a healthy community for themselves going forward. Speaking of a healthy community, I want to thank, before we forget, the Desjardins, especially Ken, who's brought in some refreshments later on for us, along with coffee and tea when we have a little social period afterwards. Ken has the Metro out in that wonderful city of Valley East. Now, we have one final question, and it sort of applies to our facility here. And I know I was on the building committee years ago when this place was built. There was some talk of having it located elsewhere. But this question sort of applies to that.
The question was, would you support lowering the age limit for older adults, 55 plus, using older adult center as the center if located outside of downtown, would have free parking? Cannot this be provided at Parkside? Sort of reflects there was a change, wasn't there? It was 55, and then they went up to 65, and then it went, we don't know where we are.
That's right. So now, someone who's been very, very much involved in all the meetings and debates, whatever you want to call them, the get-togethers, the sessions with candidates, is someone that we've had help us participate over the years in the events that we've held here through CARP. And his name is Jerry LaBelle, and we couldn't do it without him. So I want you to give a warm round of applause for our moderator, Jerry LaBelle.
So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And it is the last of the numbers, and it's your last get-together as well, right, before the election? And it's my last facilitation, which is kind of nice. This is always my favorite group, believe it or not, because, as I said, I was telling Jim, that the seniors, they'll tell you the way it is. They don't give a shit. So this is always the most difficult one to basically facilitate, because it gets out of hand sometimes, so, and that's okay, it's a lot of fun. But this is the evening that you're here to ask the tough questions, and they're here to answer the tough questions. So thank you very much for coming. Ron, welcome, because I haven't met you yet. It's the first time we've met. So the candidates know what the format is, they know what the rules are. If you see me escorting somebody else, because they broke the rule. Okay? I'm going to give you 3 minutes each for an opening statement. And I'm sorry, Patricia. Okay. Bill, we'll start with Bill.
Now the opening statement is anything, Jerry, or
anything? It's you. What do you want to say?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to tell you why I'm running for mayor. I received a phone call back in early June, and it was from a woman, Pat Rogerson, and she said, "Bill, I represent a group, and we really think you'd make a great mayor." And I was a little surprised, but I talked to some of my close friends and my family, and I said, "What do you think?" And they said, "Bill, go for it." And so that's sort of why I had the thought to do it. The real reason I'm doing it is for my students, for people who are probably your children and your grandchildren's ages. We are in the 21st century, and I think we have to get our city into the 21st century. I think we have to leave some of the 1970s thinking behind us. It hurts to hear that, probably, hurts to admit it, but that's what we have to do. I want to get our economy back on the tracks so that we can do two things: attract millennials or keep the ones who are here. One of the things that frustrates me to no end as a professor is the fact that every graduation day I'm seeing my brightest students graduate and leave this town. It hurts me. It breaks my heart. I don't have any natural children of my own, so maybe that means I have a stronger affinity for my students than other profs do. So I'm trying to walk the talk for them. I'm telling them that When you feel something's important, it's important for you to get out there and show that you're going to do something about it. So that's part of it. I happen to love this town. I did not grow up in Sudbury, but I had two uncles who worked for Inco. In the last 2 weeks of every August, we came to Sudbury, Lively actually. One uncle lived in Lively, one lived just outside. So I spent many, 10 or 12 summers swimming in Meatbird Park Lake. It was to die for. And I've had an affinity for the North ever since. And I feel that my background as an urban economic geographer, someone who teaches and understands urban design, that I've got something to offer the city that other candidates don't. I am not a planner, but I understand what planning is, but more than that, I understand what urban design is and what good urban design is and how we can make our cities safer, more economically and ecologically friendly through design. And I think that's about what I'm going to say, so vote for Crumplin. Thank you.
Jeff Huska.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Huska, and I want nothing more to be the next mayor of Greater Sudbury. In 1991, I moved here with my wife, Mary, with the hopes of raising a family, which we're lucky to do, because housing was affordable, we had good paying jobs, and it was a great city to live in. Those times aren't the same anymore for kids today, and that's why you'll find a lot of them are leaving. I think that when you're voting for your next mayor, you want to make sure that you're looking at somebody who's actually been involved in the community for the last few years, not just the last few weeks or the last couple months. I currently sit on the board of directors of the Public Health Unit. I currently chair the Greater Sudbury Market Advisory Panel for our market down the street. And I currently sit on the Greater Sudbury Watershed Advisory Panel. So I understand a lot of what's going on regarding salt, the watershed, and what's going on with our environment. I firmly believe that as a mayor and as a council, we need to understand the difference between wants and needs when it comes to the city. There's an awful lot of things that all of us would love to have, but there's many things that we actually need in this city. And it's vitally important that we distinguish between the two of them. 4 years ago when I was here for the last time, we had this type of discussion. I was fortunate enough to have my mother here attending with me. My mother's 82 and has many medical ailments that's preventing her from being here tonight. But I do understand the issues of trying to get a hold of handy trans and setting up appointments and making sure she gets to the doctor and making sure she gets to her doctor's appointment. She's still trying to live in her apartment, and I give her a lot of credit. She's doing a fabulous job. But as the only sibling in the city, I deal with a lot of the things to help coordinate my mother's life. And I think it gives me a strong understanding of what many of our seniors are going through in this city. And when I say seniors in the city, I don't just mean the city core, I mean the outlying areas as well. Today I handed in a media release to the papers discussing about the need for assisted living and long-term care in our outlying areas. It only seems viable that you have someone from an area like Cape Coral that actually can stay in Cape Coral after they retire if they spent their whole life there. No different than Levac, Onaping, Skeet, or Falconbridge. So moving forward, I want you to understand one thing about me, is that I won't spend a dime of your taxpayers' money until every appeal and everything has been heard. Because your money is too important to me and to the city to do that. So in 2018, I hope you vote for Jeff Huska, but more importantly, I do hope you vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Melanson.
4 years ago, I sat at this table and Brian Bigger said, quote, "Debt financing will burden our grandchildren with unnecessary debt," end quote. Mr. Bigger also said debt financing should not be used to build roads, as the useful life of roads is shorter than the term of the debt. He also said he knew where millions of dollars in savings could be found. In fact, he made a great many promises, none of which he's kept. Mayor Bigger, now 4 years later, openly embraces debt financing for everything from marinas to art galleries to convention centers and yes, even roads. The reconstruction of MR 35 will be debt financed to the tune of $33 million. He's also gone so far as to increase the debt borrowing capacity of the city to $500 million. He never did produce the promised savings of $13 million, which he said he knew existed. In fact, after 6 months and having seconded a number of staff to search for savings, they only managed to find $250,000. And the zero tax increase he promised in the first year, that was supposed to be paid for by finding those millions in savings, was in fact paid for by savings. Only they weren't new savings. The $6 million needed to offset the tax increase were withdrawn from the city's savings account. So I suppose when he said he knew where the savings were, he was actually referring to the savings account number where the reserve funds were kept. Based on this complete flip-flop on these, as well as many more of his promises, Mayor Baker has demonstrated beyond any doubt that he has, at best, a disingenuous relationship with the truth and cannot be trusted to live up to his word. It is for all these reasons I suggest to you, Mayor Baker has not earned, nor does he deserve, a second term as mayor. The only promise that I will make to you is that I will work diligently on your behalf to ensure the maximized value for tax dollars that are spent. They'll be accounted for properly and they'll be spent on projects that actually improve our infrastructure and our lives as a whole. I will do everything I can to try and heal the rift between downtown and the outlying communities. Those are the only things that I'll promise that I'm going to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patricia Mills.
Hi, I'm Patricia Mills, and I realize people in the back can't see us, so standing for you. I want to thank the organizers and all the participants who came here tonight to watch the debate. My detailed answers to the questionnaire are available in printed format at the back of the room after, or you can find them on my website, patriciamills.ca. The venue we are in tonight, Parkside Centre, has an impressive participation rate, with over 70,000 seniors checking in annually for a wide variety of activities. And venues such as these are an important part of the fabric that weaves a community together. Unfortunately, our community is not together. I call it the bigger divide. We deserve better. Our hard-earned tax dollars need to be treated with greater respect. Our roads need to be fixed right the first time. Our neighborhoods in every part of our city need care and attention. Our economy must grow in order to create stable, good-paying jobs. I will not commit our taxpayer dollars to a legacy of debt like our current mayor. It's time to stop the madness. A core part of my platform focuses on wise use of taxpayer money. If elected mayor, I have committed to working hard to keep tax increases at or below the rate of inflation. I believe this is essential with an increasing number of seniors on fixed incomes and young families with limited incomes. I plan to achieve this target by conducting a line-by-line review of the city's budget. We need to understand how and where our money is being spent before we make changes. And I believe there are efficiencies to be found in the city's $564 million budget. Sudbury is known as the City of Lakes. I plan to fiercely protect the brand and the watersheds which make it possible. Our city needs to do a better job of controlling runoff and preventing fertilizer and other chemicals from ruining our beautiful lakes. The interest in de-amalgamation, which lives on after 20 years, is a sign that the neighborhoods surrounding the core city feel disconnected and underserviced. As mayor, I will recognize the contributions, benefits, and significance of Sudbury's town centers and help them realize their potential for future growth, building vibrant neighborhoods throughout a greater city. As for the casino, I am not in favor of extended gambling in Greater Sudbury. However, the mayor and council approved an entertainment district that includes a new casino. This project, as I understand it, is interdependent, meaning all of the components must be realized in order to proceed. The components consist of the casino, an arena, and a hotel. All of us are aware that the project as a whole is in jeopardy. Legal appeals have been launched, no firm agreement is in place for the hotel. The current mayor has mismanaged this project from the start.
10 seconds.
Poor communication, faulty planning, and a lack of leadership have created legal and financial risks for the city. But of greatest concern is the plan to build this and other big projects on the backs of us, the taxpayers.
Thank you very much. Rod Newton.
Hi, I'm Rod Newton. I'm been here for 56 years, and I watched this city grow. And I watched a lot of things happen that we ignored, and the city ignored. And we have a serious problem with drugs, homelessness, and the problems with our roads and our sidewalks. Our seniors can't even walk on the sidewalks without tripping and falling, and the city doesn't even take responsibility for that. Well, you know something, I'm gonna fight for the elderly of this town, because I am gonna be one that's gonna be walking on these streets. And I wanna pave a good, city for our grandkids, the ones that we're raising, because of the population right now, the drug problem we have is in all of our families. And we need a lot of help. And before we can start introducing new things in this city, maybe we should look at the problems we have, fix that, and I promise when we bring these new things to the city, it's gonna grow. But you can't bring something to a city that's broken. Okay, this is what we gotta concentrate on. And if we can concentrate on that, I'm sure anything that we can do for our seniors, we can accomplish it. And as taxes wise, I think you're tired of, the taxes raising and nothing being done. For years, they've been promising us a lot of things. And so far, Sudbury is getting to be worse. And I believe after this winter, we're gonna be driving in a real gravel pit. So we have to start spending the money wisely, but we have to start looking at the broken parts of the city first. And that's the drug problem, the homeless problem, okay? And I think that if you vote for me, I'm not one that's gonna back away or take no for an answer. I'm gonna fight for you, okay, no matter what it takes. Because this city's mine too, and it's my grandkids and my great-grandkids. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Popescu.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this past Thanksgiving season. You are the key to life here and hereafter. We thank you for creating everything we enjoy in this most blessed city, I think, on the face of the earth. We realize the great expense all these blessings were to you at Calvary. We're the sinners, Father. We don't like to hear the negative truth, even about what we're planning here. Your word says the wages of our sin is death, and we have suffered terrible consequences. We thank you for your word that convicts us of sin. It's unchangeable, never can pass away, but we are. Only by grace, Father, if you crush our vile will and force your Holy Spirit in, will we ever change. So we pray you do that for this judgmental love. We thank you for the greatest blessing of all, your resurrection.
What about the city? Are you going to talk about the city?
It's my turn to speak, sir.
I'm asking you.
He will. It's okay. He'll be statement. He'll do it there.
Yeah. We thank you for the power of your resurrection and for revealing yourself personally to your children.
15 seconds.
We pray, Father, that you make us encourage each other into your eternal word for the prosperity we're all seeking for.
Thank you. Bill Sanders.
Ladies and gentlemen, can you see me back there? I would like to again acknowledge the presence of one of my heroes, Jim Gordon. A big round of applause for a great mayor. I saw him in the grocery store the other day, and it was a real treat having a chat over a can of peas. This campaign, at this point, we've heard all the blahs and the blahs and the blahs. We've heard some prayer and some rhetoric. But at this point in the campaign, what you really should be thinking about is who's going to run a council. Because it doesn't really matter what we believe in. There's some great ideas and there's some great passion at this table. But it doesn't matter if this person can't communicate their ideas to a council. The council of the city is what's going to run this city. And the mayor has to run the council. They have to be a great communicator. They have to be a great negotiator. And at this point, you should be making those decisions. It's pretty easy. Use this formula. Let's go by height. We could do that. I think I'm a little taller than Troy, maybe. But how about we do this? How about we take the most divisive issue in this campaign, the Kingsway Entertainment District, and make that decision. And if you're for the Kingsway, then you can put those mayors on that side and these candidates on this side. And then from those mayors, those candidates, you can pretty much make it under process of elimination, come up with a pretty good idea of who you want to vote for mayor. So I think it's really important at this point that I just also want to go on record as saying that my mom lives with me, just to get a couple extra grand points, you know. And I'll be honest with you, it's a challenge. Because I'll go out and I work a lot at night because I work in entertainment, and I'm 54, and my mom still asks me where I'm going. And whether I had dinner, and whether I'm going to be 15 seconds? Whether I'm going to wear a proper coat. So, but it has been a lovely time living with my mom and rekindling that relationship. And honestly, I think at this point, we really need to think about who's going to be the best communicator to make a council work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the question was, candidates will have 3 minutes to give short responses to the survey questions.
Well, I changed it around, so if you can have an opening statement, we'll get into those as well if you want. Either way, you can answer the 3 minutes if you want.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll still respond to the survey questions because that was fine. So the first question deals with taxation, and I know that taxation is very, very important to everyone in our community, and particularly important to seniors and people on fixed incomes. And what I can say is that in the last 4 years, the council that's been elected has had the absolute strongest record in holding the taxes down. When we inherited the city in 2015, the 2015, we delivered a 0% increase, and we in fact the total budget dollars without rounding factors actually resulted in we have delivered the lowest tax increases over a 4-year period of a council since amalgamation. All other periods were higher. Part of the reason is because I'm a CPA, our chair of finance is a CPA, the CAO is a CPA. We understand the finances of the organization, and we're managing it well. There were comments about completing projects. You know, one of the things that most people need to recognize is that there's a time for a project in all areas of the community. And so, very important to all of the people that are working in Levack and Onaping, these are people who live in Sudbury, they commute on MR35. It's been unsafe and been second highest priority for about 30 years as far as a road project. We're finally getting that done. Lawrence Street was neglected. It's finally getting done this year and next year. We'll be working on Lawrence Street as well. These are road projects that are fixing up the roads that you are trying to see fixed. They are main arteries with high traffic volumes. There was a question and some stats that were provided. 35% wanted to see a new facility and 27% favored expansion. So when I do the math, it adds up to 62% of people in Sudbury wanted an expanded casino. That's the numbers that have been provided here by CARP. And so I look at that, and as mayor, we're not, and as the city, we're not building a casino. However, 62% of people, according to this survey,
15 seconds.
want an expanded casino. As far as salt, the question is are the people who wrote this question against salt or against development? Because there's a way to reduce the amount of salt that goes into the environment. You just put down less salt. That's the way that you mitigate salt that gets into the environment.
Thank you.
And those proposals have been provided too.
Cody Cacciotti.
Still want to stick with general introductions? Perfect, okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Cody Cacciotti. I'm running for the position of mayor for the city of Greater Sudbury. For those who don't know me, I grew up in the West End, just up on Spruce Street around the corner, and spent a lot of my youth downtown, hanging out with my mom and my grandparents. For the last 8 years, I've been working for the Railway Museum out in Cape Pearl, and it's been an absolute pleasure. I've had the joy of working with all 3 levels of government, community stakeholders, and a great group of senior volunteers out there who have really helped drive that community forward and help put Cape Pearl back on the map. Living in Sudbury, working in an outlying area, I definitely feel like I've got a great perspective that the wants and needs of certain neighborhoods are very different than the wants and needs of others. So I think moving forward, the leadership group that we elect definitely has to represent the fact that different areas in the city need and want different things, and we need to find a way to fund those and support those so that at the end of every year, at the end of every 4-year term, everybody feels like they're getting value for their tax dollar. We know we probably can't lower taxes, but we can definitely make sure that you are getting the utmost value for your tax dollar. We can do this by expanding our tax base, by going out and proactively finding new opportunities to bring industry into this city. If we can provide new jobs, we can attract more people from the working class, and we can make sure that we're stabilizing any tax increase so that seniors and some of our vulnerable citizens are not being hit with major tax increases. The other thing, again, is working together. I'd love to see us work closer with CAN committees, working closer with the community organizations in every neighborhood, making sure that they're being supported for the work they do, whether it's through community gardens, whether it's through seniors programs, whether it's offering youth opportunities to our younger citizens. These are things I think that we need to continue to invest in and move our community together forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Troy Clutter. Are you taller or shorter than Bill?
Taller for sure. He's wearing skates.
I'm going to put out my cards there. They have a website that basically lays out most of what I've talked about. The same things that I talked about when I was running for MPP, when I knocked on people's doors. The reason I ran in politics in the first place wasn't because I didn't like my life before. It was pure frustration. I grew up in the little town of Lively, which I thought was the center of the universe and the greatest place you could ever want to be. And I moved away at 17 years old to play hockey, and I went to Hamilton. I'm like, oh, this is a steel city. It's different than a mining city. And then I got drafted by the New Jersey Devils, and I said, well, where's their mines and where's their steel? And then I started realizing there's a different way they do business. And then I went to New York and LA and played in every American Hockey League city that you could imagine. East Coast Hockey League. I played in Europe and London and in Germany. I traveled with the Canadian military around the world. And I'd always was interested in what made cities tick, why they were successful or why they weren't successful. And I could list off many of them who have completely turned their economies around since when I first started playing there to where they are now. And I'd come home every summer and I'd go, why don't we do anything different in this city? Ever since amalgamation is about the time I left the city, nothing has really happened. And I look around the regreening that's went on around the city and I say, it's beautiful. But if you come from out of town, besides going, Science North's pretty good and go for a walk on Bell Park, there isn't a thing that you could recommend somebody to do or go see or experience in this city. All my projects are low-hanging fruit, simple projects. We got an old hospital and property beside it. It's set up for long-term care. We will petition the provincial government to turn that into a long-term care facility and finally get something done with that building. We will rezone the property that's beside it to build the first ever hotel on Ramsey Lake that you can see the lake. There's no economic benefit for building condominiums there except for just a general tax base. These are construction jobs, then they're actual long-term work jobs, and then they start the basis of a tourism business. We have the Legion on Weller Street that the city owns that property. They want to do a hotel and a wedding facility and a retirement home. We've got the property that Delron has by the Legion or by the curling rink that wants to do the same kind of development. We have Laurentian University that wants to build rinks. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of jobs and construction and long-term jobs that want to be done, and this city stops it. They stop it, they stop it, they stop it. So my number one thing is to open up the doors to help our seniors by having more long-term care, more retirement homes, affordable places to live. And two is create a new business that isn't going to cost us our money. And the biggest factor behind all of it is we have a mayor who gets pushed around by senior staff and then does not inform our council.
Thank you, Dwight. Good, Patricia Mills, to answer the questions and also to make it to. By the way, one thing you don't know is that if somebody wants to refute something someone said, they've got 10 seconds to do that. Just raise their hand, let me know. And I missed it when she raised her hand a while ago. So you've got 10 seconds, Patricia.
Just some facts. In the past 4 years, property taxes increased by almost 13%. Operating budgets went up by 12%. User fees went up by 14%, and water charges increased by 27%. If we keep this up, we'll be taxed out of our homes, and our children will not be able to buy one. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Bigger. Ten seconds.
So what's been proven is that under my leadership, we have kept the tax increase to the lowest it's been for any council term since amalgamation. The previous term, property taxes, including education taxes, that's what you pay.
10 seconds is short.
Was 12.4%. Our increase was 8.5%.
Thank you, Ryan. Troy. 10 seconds.
2017 budget, $17 million deficit. That hasn't been released yet, but you'll see it after this election. $17 million deficit we have coming in.
Thank you. We're going to go now to the questions that were asked. If you want to comment on those. Bill, you got the microphone? We're not going to go with you. We're going to go Bill at this end here.
Oh, come and get it.
He's going to stand anyway. That's right.
Question one, how can taxes be a close rate of inflation with projected at cost of new developments?
Why are you going so fast?
I don't know. I only have 3 minutes, don't I?
That's right.
Okay. The question on taxes. In my world, new developments are not paid by taxpayers, so the tax rate should reflect the rate of inflation. New developments should be paid by developers. If Mr. Zulich wants an arena, he should pay for it. And don't get me wrong, I'm also the arts guy, and I don't want the junction downtown either. My idea for a performing arts center was to have it paid for by apartments on top, 50 luxury apartments on top of it. So and that would pay for the performing arts center, not the taxpayers, okay? So my tax rate should reflect the rate of inflation. Do you agree about completion of Maley Drive and other new road construction? Hey, let's fix Maley Drive. I have a problem driving a goat down that road. Let's just fix what we have. Let's fix what we have. Casinos, I'm sorry, I don't like casinos. I don't like them. I don't think they're value for money. And I did like the horse races though. Gotta say, the horse races were a good time. Oh, and bingo. I love bingo. Question 4. No mitigation methods to remove salt on large-scale development. Well, I mean, that's a no-brainer for me because I'm anti-KED. So that development wouldn't happen in the watershed, and therefore we wouldn't have to worry about the salt increasing in the Ramsey Lake watershed. Thank you very much. What could be done to provide more autonomy to our former municipalities? That's a great question. Because honestly, I don't know. The only thing I can think of is to de-amalgamate. To let those towns be back to where they used to be. That's the only solution I can think of to fix that. So if there's a way we can do it, I'd surely love to explore that. I mean, they want to be autonomous themselves. And question 6. Would you support lowering the age limit for older adults? I would like to lower the age limit to 25. Okay, first of all, if we lower the age limit to 55, guys, that means that a lot of 55-year-old men are coming to these socials. You know what I'm saying? And that means a lot more competition. No, of course, I support any idea that is going to increase the membership of the Parkside Centre. It's an incredible place, and also have free parking for the seniors downtown. Thank you very much.
Thank you. David, we have 6 questions, so please stick to answering the questions, please.
And we only have 3 minutes to answer all of them.
Good job.
Okay, well, concerning keeping taxes down, I think maybe extravagant salaries should be drastically curtailed. Can't we find someone honest who will accept about maybe 20% of what some of these higher officers are paid? You can't say, oh, well, you got to pay high bucks for honesty. I don't think that's true. There's a lot of honest people that are more reasonable. About Haley Drive, well, the big trucks need it, like Days Construction, they're ruining LaSalle Boulevard, and that's certainly essential. Back to question 1 about saving taxes, we fund a lot of SIN projects. I'm not trying to be rude, but go into any library and you'll find it full of atheists, pagan, anything but God. I looked for a Bible in one of the libraries. Oh, we could order it in from the main branch. My goodness me. All sorts of porn and Hollywood type of videos. We should curtail funding to libraries, to our evolution bias to tourist attractions until they can come up with some godly-based program to properly influence society. And get against gambling. How can we pretend to spend $100,000 to deal with the drug crisis when we're spending $100 million for a sin magnet that is surrounded by liquor that God condemns, and it's a magnet for prostitution and for drugs. This is very hypocritical. We have to develop some kind of a godly filter for all our good projects we intend, or they can backfire and God will see to it. As far as the salt problem goes, you know, if we don't deal with our sin issues, God closes the womb of earth and contaminants that it used to absorb accumulate to our detriment. I guess that's close to time, eh, Jerry?
Pretty close, about 10 seconds. Thank you very much, David. Rodney Newton.
Hey, about the tax problems, maybe we can start cutting some corners down at City Hall and some of the jobs that are that they have down there that we don't need. Okay, and maybe we won't have to have so many taxes raised, but keep the taxes down. We can start maybe start spending some of the money we have in the bank to start fixing the problems, and maybe once things start rolling in the city, maybe we won't have to you know, like pick on the people of the city with raising the taxes so high every year. The roads, well, we have to get these things fixed. I don't know about, we repaired these roads, and I remember back in the day, you know, we fall on these roads, we had to go to the hospital, get stitches. We fall on the roads now, we make a dent, and then first you know we gotta get a mechanic to fix our car. And that's the problem we're having. We don't have the proper materials for up north here. And if we can get the proper materials and the proper people doing these roads, we won't have to worry about fixing them every single year and costing us. The salt, well, we can cut back on that with these big trucks and stuff like that that are in the places they want to build. But I don't think we have to worry too much about the salt this year, because I think we should start turning our cars in and maybe getting wagons and horses. Because, like I said, we have to look at the corruption of this city if we want to fix this city. Because it seems like the rich are lining their pockets, and it's not helping us. So, like I say, if and the age, you know, like we're getting older, and we all like to be younger. But listen, we have to start looking around and seeing what we're really living in, and what we're gonna start doing for this city, and who we got running it.
15 seconds.
Okay, well, thank you.
Brian?
I'd just like to object to the comments about corruption at the city. You know, basically there are no facts in what was stated here.
Okay, could we hand the microphone, please?
I'm just simply objecting to, you know, people making blanket statements and saying there's corruption, and you know, there's nothing, no factual information here whatsoever, nothing of use or, you know, worthy of listening to.
Thank you.
And so I think it's inappropriate.
Thank you. Troy?
There is political corruption, because I'm filing a lawsuit tomorrow. I tried to bid on a tax property just a few days ago, and there was a lot of corruption that went on, and now they're pulling the property off even though someone didn't fill out the forms properly, and the financial department said that everything was fine.
Thank you. Patricia?
Hi. I answered most of the questionnaire at the beginning, so I'm going to go and finish what I started.
Right.
So holding the line on taxes means keeping increases at or below the rate of inflation. We need to put taxpayers first, and I refuse to put the special interest groups ahead of the taxpayers. That's not what we need to do here. I understand the value of a hard-earned dollar. I will work hard over the next 4 years to keep more of our citizens' money in their pocket. And just as another fact, the inflation rate has been 3% or lower in the last 4 years. So all of these increases I mentioned earlier didn't have to be. You need to set clear targets. That's never been done. So when you go into a budget meeting, and I ran businesses for 25 years, I've always had a good budget, or I wouldn't be in business for 25 years. So when you don't set clear targets, then you don't have anything to go by. My target is to keep taxes at the rate of inflation, and we will do that. Our mayor doesn't know how to govern, obviously. As a result, we're living with double-digit hikes when we don't have to. If you don't curb taxes, you are inviting higher spending, and you're going to have higher budgets. It's not good for the community. They hurt vulnerable populations like seniors on fixed incomes and low-income families struggling to make ends meet. Tax increases are also hard on small businesses. They can't absorb the cost to their business, and they're bad for job creation. We have an opportunity to increase our economic development footprint by giving more autonomy to our economic development professionals and the volunteers from the business community who sit on that committee. We need to create more revenue and more wealth for our community, and we need to stop taxing for big projects that we're not going to benefit from and that we can't afford, our children can't afford, and our grandchildren can't afford. But we can have a beautiful, beautiful city here, and we can have a lot of good amenities if we were spending our money wisely and smartly and planning things out over a period of time instead of doing everything all at once in a hurry. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my position that until the City of Greater Sudbury has exhausted all possible means of increasing efficiencies and has received the maximum value of the current tax dollars being spent, there should be no reason to increase taxes to property owners. Once and only once it can be shown that there are no more efficiencies to be realized, then a tax increase should be considered, but only up to the rate of inflation. We have lost significant investments in the city, most recently the fumbled Ferrochrome project that would have provided at least 350 skilled jobs. This project should have been a shoe-in for Greater Sudbury, as Noront Resources is also deciding on whether Valley or Glencore will refine the nickel that will also be mined from their Ring of Fire properties. Our Greater Sudbury Development Corporation needs to be refocused and revitalized so the projects like this are utilizing all the mining and environmental experts we have here in Greater Sudbury. I agree that our roads need to be repaired properly before most new construction takes place. Phase 2 of the Bailey Drive extension is projected to cost $70 million. This in addition to the $80 million already spent. Everyone can agree that our pothole problem is out of control, but there are ways to fix these potholes and cracks properly the first time instead of the way the city has been doing it all along. As mayor, I intend to bring our road construction and repair methods into this millennium with the help of all the experts in this field that I have been able to be in contact with. The proposal for the new casino was accepted and approved by the previous council in 2012, and the current council is simply following through on that decision. It's my opinion that the casino will not be the great economic generator that some of the proponents are predicting, excuse me, any more than it will be the more moral and economic downfall of Greater Sudbury that those who are opposed are claiming it will be. I believe that the health unit, which we as taxpayers provide funding to should step up and provide more educational seminars and material about gambling addiction to seniors and younger people alike. With regards to the salt, our airports currently do not use salt on their runways or even in their parking lots, and they're able to keep the runways and the parking lots ice-free. And that's because of the special equipment that they use and the standard operating procedures they use to operate that equipment. I believe that we can, as we did with the regreening project back in the 70s, have a research project to pilot on the roads around Lake Ramsey using a different type of equipment that doesn't require salt to remove the ice, and that will provide us the opportunity to protect the watershed. As for the seniors, I think 65.
Thank you. Jeff Huska.
Regarding taxes, I am committed to doing everything in my power to keep taxes at the rate of inflation, but that will only happen with a change at City Hall. Their current spending habits and need to complete everything yesterday will keep your taxes high. We need a council that understands this is Greater Sudbury, not Greater Toronto, it's not Montreal, it's not Ottawa. We have our own identity. It's something great to be a northerner. Regarding the completion of Mayley Drive and other new road construction, I couldn't agree more about our roads being in awful shape, and I personally feel the city is presently biting up more than it can chew with the cost of these large projects. I do believe we need to have development to keep our communities growing and thriving, but not continually at the cost of the taxpayer. When does the spending stop? I just sent out a letter to the media today about wants and needs and understanding the differences. We need our roads repaired, especially when main arteries and thoroughfares with super pave. It's an incredible type of pavement that lasts an awful lot longer than the 1939 Marshall mix that we're currently using. With regards to a casino, from the onset of my campaign, I have been against the casino. As a board member of the Public Health Unit, I can tell you that I'm in full agreement with them and truly do believe that seniors in particular are at risk when it comes to gambling addictions. For many, it said gambling is like electronic heroin. The more you did, the more you needed, and the more it wasn't satisfied. I can't mandate good parenting or good grandparenting, but I truly believe if you put a casino 100 to 150 feet from a sports complex that you're dropping off your children or your grandchildren to, a lot of those adults are going to walk across the street and start spending some of that money away. Regarding the limited development to the Lions Rig watershed, etc., as a current member of the Watershed Advisory Panel for Greater Sudbury, I've learned a lot of things over the last 4 years. And honestly, it would be difficult to limit the entire development in that watershed. But having said that, nothing should really be transpiring until the results of that watershed study are complete, and the new policies and documents that are come forth with from it should help facilitate new guidelines to how things should happen. And things shouldn't be built to those guidelines are available to everybody. With regards to changing structure through de-amalgamation, unfortunately, I think the amalgamation, whether we like it or dislike it, is here to stay, and the amount of energy and money invested into it and that brought us to where we are will cost much more to de-amalgamate. Hindsight is 20/20, and if we saw then how mismanaged the process of amalgamation was going to be moving forward, we would have fought to say no. If we had an opportunity to hit the restart button somewhere between now and then, we wouldn't have been discussing the issues we see today. Do I think the amalgamation can work? Yes. Do I think it'll happen overnight? No. But a lot will depend on you as a city and who decides to sit around the council table. I do believe that the age should be dropped to 55. Thank you.
Finally, I went first, but now I've got a chance to go again. What I think with tax increases, there's a couple of things. First of all, I don't know how we're going to keep them to the rate of inflation, given the condition of our roads. I would like to do that, but I don't think any of us up here are really aware of what the costs are to get our roads back into condition. It's going to cost a lot of money. Added to that are the hidden costs of the secret agreements that have been made between the city and the developers of KED. I don't know how we maintain our roads, get our roads back up to snuff, and pay what our share is going to be of the KED development, and to say that we're going to keep it within the rate of inflation. I think we're in for a surprise once all that information actually comes through. In my FOI, I don't get answered my FOI until the end of October, which is, I wanted to find out what those secret agreements were. However, for the people in this room, what my team and I have proposed is that for a senior, someone who's 65 years of age and over, your tax increase, if you participate in the program, will be zero. You will pay your base rate, which will be 2019, but any increase over that will be put against the equity in your home. You will have a little lien so that when you sell your home, you actually, those deferred taxes would come back to the city. So your tax rate of 2019 would be it for you. Now, roads, our roads are in big trouble. I agree that we should not have any new development until we get our roads back in place. And for roads, I would have our city adopt MTO standards. Those are far greater standards. Think of driving on a highway that the province runs versus our roads. There are different standards there. Casino to me is a Trojan horse. It sucks up disposable income, and its belly is full of social ills. And I I do not support an expanded casino. I'm worried about the quality of our drinking water. Salt is one thing coming out of Lake Ramsey, which is coming, a lot of that's coming from the road salt. The other thing that's happening there, I'm very much interested in the water study as well, because I'm pretty confident that overuse of fertilizer and old septic systems on lakefront properties are part of the problem with what we've got in our water. In terms of amalgamation,
15 seconds.
As much as we care about amalgamation, there's nothing we can do. It was a provincial thing. What I will do is move my council meetings every third month or so to outlying areas so that councillors actually see what's going on out there. And I would.
Thank you very much. Before you begin, we have 3 other people to go, and I will entertain questions from the audience. If you have a question you'd like to ask, we probably have time for maybe 3 to 4 questions. Please come to the side here, and we'll let you ask the question yourself. Right?
To make it clear, the only way you can lower taxes is to have a bigger tax base. We need more people living here. We have an aging population with a lot of people, young people have moved away because we don't have diverse jobs in this city. So my whole goal would be to open up that diversity so we can actually create a job employment opportunity here. Development fees are a major hindrance to getting people to come and open up businesses here. The second business thing are the godfathers that run this city. People that have been in senior management for 30-some years now act like it's their city. Few of them have turned down almost $1 billion worth of investment into this city because they decided so. We have an economic development head that hasn't brought economic development to this city for 25 years and flies around the world first class, going on vacations, deciding on where he might want to go next. We have corruption in our financial part of our city, and all these people are the ones dictating to our mayor to tell our council whatever he wants to tell them, and they're not fully informed on all the things that are going on. You were never told the option could be we could renovate the arena. You were never told it could be on LaSalle or it could be at the Four Corners and what the costing is going to be. I've been in construction my whole life. I've been in the tourism business my whole life. And I've been in the sports entertainment business my whole life. All of these projects are a sham and a scam. We need to focus our money in the right direction. We need to send the retirement zero package, get lost, and we're taking it to court, to all these senior management and clean house. We need to inform our councillors exactly what we can do to actually make this city turn around. I've never, ever seen such political corruption that goes on in this city.
15 seconds.
All of that money we're going to save. Tom Price and Bob Tate, well, you almost quoted every bit of Tom Price's financial doings, Dan. We got to give these 2 guys some unbelievable credit. They can show us how to save $1 billion over the next 20 years.
Thank you very
much. Just follow their plans.
Thank you. Cody Cacciotti.
Thank you. So if we're going to keep our taxes low, like I mentioned in my opening introduction, the first thing we need to do is attract new business to this city. We need to create new jobs. We need to expand our tax base. We need to take every step possible to make sure that we're open for business. We need to find efficiencies at the city, find new ways of doing business, and integrate technology. With that being said, we also need to stop the tax and spend and make sure that any investment we're making in this city has to be a smart one with sound financial rewards for our citizens. As far as our roads go, I believe we need to focus on our roads and our current infrastructure before we start building anything new. There's ways we can definitely do this. Recently, I quoted an article, or in an article for the Sudbury Star about the current work on Lawrence Street. We paved from Martindale to Logan Avenue and then left Logan to Kelly Lake, only to come back and revisit that project again in 2 years. So now we're going to pay again for the tendering process. We're going to pay to have all the crews come out and set up. We're going to pay for all the traffic calming measures to be put in place when this could have been done in the first place. And that road could have been struck off the list and we could have moved on to another project. As far as gambling goes in our city, I believe we've had gambling here for the last 20 years. It's my understanding that we do have a responsible gambling program here, and if we are going to expand any gambling facilities, we need to make sure that those programs are in place and they're available to anybody, whether they're seniors or young adults. Any development along our watershed needs to be responsible development, and I believe we need to be mindful of any impacts on Ramsey Lake watershed or any of our other drinking water sources. We need to protect our lakes, and we need to protect our drinking water. And when it comes to salt, we should always be looking for new alternative methods when we're treating our roads. To bring autonomy back to our outlying communities, again, I've worked in Cape Breton for the last 8 years. There's a proud group of citizens out there, and I'm seeing that reflected in a lot of the satellite communities we've been door knocking in. The best thing to do is invest in those communities, give them a reason to champion the things that are important to them. Cape Breton wants to develop itself as a tourism destination, so we should be working through our economic development department to make sure that they've got the resources available to make sure that that community doesn't become a closet community for Sudbury, and it can actually contribute to the economic vitality of our local tourism industry.
15 seconds.
Last question, Parkside Centre. Definitely agree with lowering the age group to 55.
Thank you.
So thank you for the opportunity to speak. I think I've answered pretty much all of the questions. So, I'll talk about some of the things that we have accomplished during the last 4 years. So we established an age-friendly community as one of our 10 population health priorities. And our age-friendly community action plan received awards from the Ministry of Senior Affairs. Annadelle Hasty and Barbara Knott, both co-chairs of the Seniors Advisory Panel to the Mayor and Council, received provincial recognition for their senior volunteerism. We've supported ongoing the Keeping Seniors Warm annual event, and by the way, it's happening again next week on Thursday, and so anyone who can provide warm clothing for seniors who are most in need is a good thing to do next week. We inherited the community paramedic, or initiated the community paramedic program to provide support after people are released from hospital, and that support is provided in their homes. We've held an Aging in Place annual conference. We've been successful with New Horizon grants. We've funded Pickleball League, and we've got pickleball courts in the flour mill. We've done research at Pioneer Manor. We've instituted francophone programming and signage in Pioneer Manor because it is so important for seniors, especially seniors that are starting with dementia, to be spoken to in a language that they're most comfortable with. We have funded seniors active living centers in the tune of close to $90,000 in 2017, and about $148,000 for Parkside older adult operating costs right here. The winter walking is now available in arenas during winter months. We've established the Greater Sudbury Seniors Network, which has over 52 not-for-profit organizations that work to improve services and community support within the city. We've established the Seniors Active Living Guide. Transit is doing training and has booklets on how to use conventional transit, handy transit. And seniors tax rebate for low-income seniors is now available. We have reports coming to us shortly on affordable access to transit and to leisure services, and obviously that includes seniors.
15 seconds.
And we've kept tax increases to a minimum over the last 4 years. And so there have been some comments about information that I know is widely available on the city's website, like renovation of the arena and a lot of
Thank you very much.
allegations here, but they're not factual.
Thank you. The format of the question is very simple. I want to get everybody out of here very shortly after 8. We started a bit late, so I'm stealing a little bit of your time. I apologize for that. The questions are to be directed to people, not to everyone, so we don't have this whole thing going on. And I've allowed people to editorialize for 15 seconds to set their question if they need to. So first.
never let go of the microphone, because I lose it.
Yeah, all right. A simple yes or no question. Do you agree on the idea of making senior bus pass to be free?
It's just a yes or no, all the way down.
Yes.
Absolutely. You louder?
Absolutely.
Patricia?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, but I'm shocked that nobody's asked what it would cost.
Okay.
They're trying to keep taxes to a minimum, that they should.
Thank you.
Seniors come first.
Thank you.
Well, I want to say thank you because, you know, as dire as things are, I'm really happy to see so many bright minds here and interested in our city. I have a simple question. Can we have an international airport? And is it as simple as putting in a new runway, and how much would it cost? Directed to Patricia, to Dan Melanson, and to Troy.
Thank you. Patricia?
Can we have one?
Yes.
I don't know if we can have one, but I can find out if we can have one, and I think that's a great idea. I know I travel, and I know a lot of you travel too, and the route from Sudbury to Toronto and then getting your flight or whatever, but if you can fly directly. But you know what, if Gander, Newfoundland can have one, why can't we?
North Bay has one.
Well, there you go. Yes, they do have one. And I think if North Bay has one, I can't see why we can't have one. I think it's a great idea, actually. And thank you for bringing it up.
Dan? An international airport is one which you can connect intercontinental flights probably direct out of. I don't believe there is direct flights on a scheduled basis out of North Bay. I believe we tried it here a few years ago with Northwest Airlines out of Minneapolis-St. Paul, which makes a lot of sense because if you did have a direct flight from Sudbury to Minneapolis-St. Paul, Minneapolis-St. Paul you can go anywhere in the world from. And it would be a great connection. I believe they tried it. It didn't work out. It doesn't mean that it wouldn't work. It could be. You don't have to lengthen the runways in order to do that. The 6,600 feet that we have will take anything up to a 767, 787. So, I mean, it's not a function of runways, it's a function of market, and it's being able to attract a carrier that would have a U.S. destination that we could connect to, so that you can then catch flights to anywhere in the world. So, the one that makes the most sense is, in fact, going to Minneapolis-St. Paul instead of going to Toronto or something like that. But all of the airlines now are doing hub and spoke situations. That's why Toronto is the hub for Air Canada. There's other hubs down in the States for different carriers.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay.
I think it's a wonderful idea, but it's a little of the cart before the horse. And one of the benefits would be wonderful was we actually might even have a passport office then. We wouldn't have to drive to Toronto to get our passports. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But I'm going to tell you right now is when I talk about tourism, it's a $5 trillion industry. It is the fastest growing domestic product around the world. More money being spent in tourism than anywhere. We have Greeks, Italians, French, Ukrainians, Scottish people, all speak the languages, live in the city. We have a beautiful city. We have no hotels to stay at, no bike paths you can go to. You can't rent a canoe, you can't rent a kayak.
Thank you.
There's nothing you can do here. Tourism should be directed at Europe.
Thank you.
That's where we should be making money, and then we can have a runway to bring those
Thank you
people
very
in.
much. Thank you.
That's a little difficult, but I'll manage. My name is Sharon Gorm, and I have come here for an answer for a question I asked 4 years ago. And I'll just give you a little bit of my background. I was a superintendent of education in the Timmins area, and when I retired, I came back home and sort of got involved in things around the community, and then I inherited an aunt from Windsor. and I had her for the next 8 years. We started off at the Meadowbrook, and then she went into hospital, and from there I was on my own. There wasn't anyone I could get for help. Anyhow, she did pass away, and I went to Mayor Bigger to ask, could we not do something better for our community than have them go to Meadowbrook, end up in hospital, and then go on to any kind of a nursing home? Because you want the very best for your relatives, but you have no choice. You're put in and threatened, you know, you take this, or else you could just stay in the hospital, or else we'll send you home. And the question is, I went to Mayor Bigger during his election, and I asked him, could we not set up some sort of a system? I would volunteer my time, just as I had in the Children's Aid Advisory Group, and others, I'm sure, would volunteer their time. And so he said, good idea. So I gave him $500 for his campaign, and then at the end of that time, he won, and I was really glad right now. Then I asked him, could we get together and do this? I did not have a telephone call accepted. No, I'm just going to end up here.
Okay, end up here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Come on. I ended up calling and never getting Mr. Bigger, Mayor Bigger. I got his assistant, who sent me to Franz Jelena, who said, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So it ended there. I have not talked to Mayor Bigger in 4 years. And that's what I'm telling you today.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to respond. So we have made significant improvements and advances in the long-term care facilities in our community, and there are more improvements coming our way. Extended care is upgrading all of the rooms in our community. That is something that's not funded by the taxpayers, and Pioneer Manor has plans to also convert and upgrade the rooms. So part of the challenge that really concerns me is when seniors turn down a placement in long-term care, and the only reason they're on the list and they're being offered is because it is very badly.
What happened to the 10 seconds on?
Jerry, this is the beginning of the opening remarks. These are questions for the audience.
So you know, I think what everyone should be well aware of is that the condition of basically all of the long-term care rooms that would be available in our community will be upgraded over the next year or so, and so it will
Why didn't you call
be
her
better
back?
for the community.
Why didn't you call her back?
The question was, why haven't you called her?
So based on the information that my office received, from what I can tell from her call, she was referred to Franz Jelena, and she was talking about something that required provincial funding.
Call her.
Thank you.
Either call her or refund her $500.
Okay, thank you.
Brooke.
Okay, so this question is for Dan Melanson, Mayor Bigger, and Patricia Mills. Okay.
What is used to decide who deserves help in Canada, for instance, it shouldn't be just based on rules. What can be done to make us more acceptable and willing to help people that deserve the help? No.
Okay, so we're talking here about mental health issues but not drug addiction. Patricia, Dan, and Brian. Brian, you want to start?
Well, we do have many agencies in our community that do provide help and support. And, you know, I've communicated with them. I've worked with a number of the agencies across the community. I'm not sure what specific challenges that you're talking about, but Sudburyans just simply are so generous, and there is a very, very large network of volunteers that do provide support. I know I was just recently at the Jarrett Wise Centre and working with people with developmental disabilities, and they provide clothing to those people in need and whatever other supports that they need.
Mayor Bigger, just clarification, he says he's asking not what is being done, but what could be done, what more could be done. So.
I think you know, we'll continue to support all of those organizations. Most of them are funded through the province, but we work in close conjunction with the municipality as well and our various social service departments.
Thank you. Dan?
That's totally irrelevant.
I think one of the things I've been looking at is taking or inquiring the access to underutilized provincial assets, and there are a number that I've identified in the area here that have the capability of providing some level of health care, and we would utilize, I would be looking at utilizing those as kind of an emergency mental health care facility that when people are in need, you'd be able to access that service at that particular location. Right now, as I understand it, if you are in need of mental health services, the only thing you can do is go to an emergency room, and that's not the best situation there. So I'm looking at ways that we could create a emergency health, mental health facility that would be able to get people the help that they need when they need it. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. I'll be putting that out on my platform within the next day or so. We're just polishing it also.
Thank you, Dan. Patricia?
Hi. You've asked a very, very important question and a very difficult one to answer.
That's like
Youth mental health increased 700% in the last 2 years, 700%. And there's a tsunami of mental health issues that the hospital cannot deal with. We don't have the resources right now, but we need the resources. So we have to work with different levels of government so
they
that...
deal with so many other things.
I know.
So they should deal with these things prior.
I understand, I do. And we need to work with the province to get more funding.
People are too spoiled. That's begged me to quit. Yeah, give her. It's not discussion. It's question.
But thank you for your question. It is a very big concern. And we're finally starting to realize how deeply this runs in our community.
And the last question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Who's this for?
This is for Dan Melanson. It could have been for any one of you, except I looked for someone with intense safety experience. And the only one amongst you that's had that has been the airport and airline safety experience that Mr. Melanson has. So my question for you, oh, by the way, I should compliment you all on having watched my video. Thank you. If you're elected and presented with a clear and present life endangerment due to a road condition, complete with video and pictures that staff refuses to address, with the statement that there are a number of these conditions around the city, but residents have learned to live with them and therefore there's no need to address them, how will you react as the mayor?
Thank you. Dan?
The first thing I do is be in the office of those staff that said that they're not a clear present danger, and they wouldn't be in that office for very bloody long, I'll tell you that. If there's a safety issue that is being ignored and passed off as simply, oh, it's like that all over, that's not acceptable. And under any circumstances, that's not acceptable. And I would personally, if I had to go take a piece of equipment and fix it myself, I would do so. But that would not stand under my watch.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, everyone. It's over. It's only a couple minutes after we leave. It's not too bad. I want to thank you very much for showing up. I want to thank you very much for your time. There is a social. I hope you're going to stick around and speak to the people. I think that's important. And you can ask the questions individually as well. What else I want to say? That's it. John, it's yours.
We want to thank all the candidates for coming out. A brave bunch, them all. And of course to Jerry Lavelle, thanks for moderating once again. And thank you. And we have opened up the back here. We have some plates of cookies. We don't know if we'll be able to feed everybody. We have coffee and tea. So just go to the back. The kitchen is open. And have a chance to talk to our candidates as well. Thanks for coming out. Bye for now. And don't forget to vote.